What's going on, everybody? What's happening? What's shaking? What's doing? Welcome to episode 293 of McRae Live. My name is Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. It is, I was going to say Tuesday. It's Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024, 8:14 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's do it again! We're doing it again. We're doing it again. Tonight, on episode 293, I have four very special guests on the show who are big donors to the It's Me Billy Chapter 2 Indiegogo campaign. And with their donation, they have an opportunity to be on an episode of McRae Live. And tonight is the night, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about our favorite horror films. It's going to be a roundtable discussion. This is Indiegogo Perk Fulfillment Show number 1. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring them on the screen. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in the top left, you are seeing Chris Stengel, one of our executive producers on It's Me Billy Chapter 2. Chris, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. Chris, thanks for being here today, man.
Glad to be here.
Amazing. And then we got Brandon Spence in the top right. Brandon, what's going on, buddy?
How's it going, Dave? Thanks for having us.
No problem. Then, of course, Rob Thitoff in the bottom right. What's going on, Rob?
Not too much. Thanks for having me, Dave.
No problem. And then, of course, Thomas Christy in the bottom left. What's going on, Thomas?
Not much. Good to be here.
Oh, wait. We can't hear you. Hang on one second. Maybe say it again.
It's good to be here.
Oh, no, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. Are you... That's okay. No worries. Are you still, let me see here. Are you muted at all, or?
I didn't touch anything.
Maybe it's the headphones. Not really sure. Chris, or Thomas, take your time. No worries. We're live, but there's no pressure, Thomas. There's no pressure. Just calm down. Thomas will get it figured out. Let me see here. He has, I don't see him. Did he leave the room perhaps? Oh, I don't see him here. Thomas, you know what, Thomas? Do me a favor and exit the room and come back in. If you can hear me, exit the room, come back in. That might solve the issue. It might solve the issue, because I also don't see you over on the other screen either, where I think you need to be. So if you can hear me, feel free to exit and come back in. That might do the trick. There we go. So we'll see if we can get Thomas in here in just a second. But folks, this is going to be... Oh, they said we can hear him. Oh, they can hear him. Okay, so the chat room can hear him. I just couldn't hear him. Okay, the chat room can hear him, but I couldn't hear him. Fascinating. I wonder why. Okay.
Am I back?
You are back. And I can hear you. Amazing. You know, it's funny, Thomas, the chat room could say they could hear you, but I couldn't hear you. And that's great that the chat room could hear you, but I need to be able to hear you as well. I mean, it doesn't do us much good if I can't hear you. Anyways, thank you, Thomas, for being here. I really appreciate it, man.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and thank you all for your very generous contributions to It's Me Billy Chapter 2. Really appreciate it. It means a lot, and obviously without you guys, we couldn't have done it. So it does mean a lot. So we are here today to talk about our favorite horror movies. Now, before we do that, is there anything any one of you want to touch on? Something specific you want to say? Something specific that sort of you want to talk about before we dive into that at all? That's a no, ladies and gentlemen. That is a no.
I can think of.
Nothing you can think of. That's a.
I can wait stuff about 20 minutes, but nobody wants to hear that.
I do have one thing, just one thing real quick.
Okay, Rob.
Is everybody else shocked that there's been no news about the Halloween TV series? Especially 2 weeks ago when we had Halloween. That's my biggest sort of, I'm kind of perplexed by that.
Maybe we can talk about that when we get to the Halloween portion of the show. maybe we can talk about that, because I do agree with you, Rob. I think it is a little strange, a little unfortunate, but nonetheless. All right, so we're all big horror fans here, obviously, and I'll be very curious to know your thoughts on the state of horror. But first, let's talk about you guys as horror fans. Chris, let's start with you. You're a big horror fan. We know you are. You've been on here before. Let's remind people. I mean, how did you? How I was gonna say, how did you get your start in horror? But that sounds like you're making movies in horror. But how did you become a horror fan? What was your path to becoming a horror fan?
I mean, throughout being a teenager and everything, I was always watching horror movies, but I was one of those. I was a lightweight, so I would cover my eyes when the gory stuff happened.
Oh, okay.
I was just a big wuss. And then I was probably like 19 years old, and I came across Evil Dead 2 one night, and rest is history. So now it's like the gorier the better. It doesn't bother me.
Wow.
But that was the movie, and that's the movie that changed my life, I guess, when it came to horror. So,
and this was this like on TV you saw it one night?
Probably like HBO or something, like around 1990, give or take, a long time ago. But yeah, it was just like turned it on, and I'm like, oh, what's this Evil Dead movie? And let's watch this. And I'm just like, I was probably laughing my ass off for the most of it, but just finding it that it was so over the top and ridiculous that it's like, if I could watch this, then man, what have I been missing all these years?
Right. So maybe for you, what was great is that because Evil Dead has a bit of a satirical nature to it, right? Evil Dead 2, there's kind of it's got a bit of a whimsy to it. It's not like that serious. Maybe that helped you it helped soften it for you and kind of eased you into it. You know what I mean? As opposed to something like, I don't know, Hostel. Or even Terrifier. I mean, if Terrifier had been out in 1990, I mean, could you imagine watching that? I mean,
I'd have probably been scarred for life.
Probably. Brandon, my man, what was your first horror movie you can remember watching, and what was the path? I mean, what's your journey here?
So when I was little, I remember my mom was dating a guy most of my childhood. He's the one that kind of showed me Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all that.
Okay.
We were going to visit family in Texas. I was born in 1992, so it's like probably mid-90s.
Okay.
I didn't know how to swim yet, so I was taking swim lessons and everything. Mm-hmm. And I remember he thought it would be funny to show me Jaws. And then it initially scared me. I didn't want to go to swim lessons and stuff. They got me in the ocean. Started pretending like I was a shark, grabbing people's ankles and stuff.
Right.
Something kind of flipped.
Wait, you just were grabbing random people's ankles, like not your family, just
the 90s. You get away with it.
Right. So you would just swim up to random people in the ocean. Come here, you son of a! Ah! Okay, all right, fair enough.
I convinced them to buy me the fin and everything. So. Just pretending I was a shark, and then I do remember we got back home, and I wanted to watch more movies, so he showed me it, and that had the exact opposite effect. that one messed me up. They took me to the circus. They were like, oh, he was fine once he got in the ocean. Let's have him meet a clown, and exact opposite effect. Started throwing hands. So yeah. Then I don't know, it was like early elementary school. I remember I watched Nightmare on Elm Street one day after school. I always had the house to myself for a few hours. And so it was stormy one day, so what better time? And then I got about, I think it was the body bag scene in the school. And then had to turn it off because I was too scared. Parents got home. They're like, why are you so scared? And then, because I never got scared of storms. Realized I watched it and actually sat me down and forced me to finish watching it. But then showed me the making of featurette and whatnot, and from that point forward, I was like, yeah, I want to make movies.
Wow. Okay. I know the chat room's been talking about an echo. We're sorry about this, folks. Is there still an echo? Can you still hear an echo? I'm doing the to make sure. I might have solved the issue, but I don't know. We're going to have to work through it. If people are still hearing an echo. He sounds good now. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. My apologies. My apologies. Echo may have stopped now. Great. Well, we'll see. We're going to find out, ladies and gentlemen. That's really cool, though, Brandon. So Jaws was your first horror movie, essentially.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's a good one to start with.
That's it. I would say
a lot of
so.
the less is more stuff that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, Rob Thitoff, you've been on here before, but tell us your journey into the world of horror.
Sure. So I have two older sisters who are the heart of Generation X. Tracy's 9 years older than me. Wendy's 6 years older than me. So late 70s, early to mid 80s, they're babysitting.
Okay.
So kind of they got into the Halloween movies, When a Stranger Calls. And me being the younger brother, I would try to sneak in when they were watching those movies because Mom and Dad kind of thought I was too young at the time to see those types of movies.
Sure.
But I still saw them anyway because it's what I wanted to do. But then probably as a kid of the 1980s, once I got into like the 5th, 6th grade, pretty much my friends were into the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So that's when I got into Freddy more. But then I'd say more into my adult life. I got back into Halloween and Michael Myers with H2O. I liked it at the time. I just graduated college, so I was 22. But the older I got, I'm not too keen on H2O. I'm more back to the Halloween 1978, Halloween 1981, Halloween 4. and I hated Halloween 3 at the time. But once I graduated college, I gave it another watch. I'm like, this isn't that bad of a movie. And now I love it, and a weird thing too, Jaws 3, I hated as a kid. And I think they came out around the same time, Jaws 3 and Halloween 3. I love that movie now too. I know it's not a fan favorite, but then probably though, even though Halloween's a big, with my sisters, Halloween, When a Stranger Calls. And the thing is too, I have a lot of older female cousins that are in that same age group, 6 to 9 years older than me. So they liked it too. And being in the same small town, they were big into it. So it's just kind of that camaraderie with your cousins and extended family members. But then probably though the first movie I saw was Jaws as well. And I love that movie. That's Jaws and Shawshank are my two favorite movies of all time. So that was the first movie that I really got into horror, but I don't really consider Jaws a horror movie still.
Right.
I consider that an action adventure type movie, but that's just me. Same with Silence of the Lambs. I consider that a thriller, if anything, not horror.
Yeah.
But I know people consider that a horror movie, but that's kind of how I got into it. But I am into more of the psychological type horror movie.
Right.
Less is more, not too much into the gore.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Cool. And Thomas, your journey into the world of horror. How did it start for you? Where does it come from, man?
Oh, definitely come from like my parents, because my first horror movies I used to watch all the Universal monster movies with my dad.
Right. Yes, you were. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Universal one. And oddly enough, first time I ever saw Halloween, it was my mom that sat me down and watched, because she would rent it. She would rent it from the local video store every Halloween. And it was back then when the VHS, you had the really shitty copies of them.
Oh yes. Yeah.
I used to watch all kinds of horror movies with my dad. The Fog, The Changeling.
Oh yeah, The Changeling. The Changeling is great. Great film. That's you mean the one with George C. Scott, not The Changeling with what's her face, which is also actually a good movie, mind you, but two completely different films.
Me and my dad used to watch the Universal monster movies, the Hammer monster movies.
Wow. So was your dad a really big horror guy?
For those type of movies, yeah, he's not really big on the slashers.
Right.
He likes a couple of them, but my mom always liked Halloween.
Okay, so. Cool. So
me personally, as a kid, Jason was my favorite.
Okay. All right.
Freddy was the only one that ever gave me a nightmare. He's the only one I've ever had a nightmare about.
Oh, geez. That'd be off.
Honestly, when I was a kid, Freddy never really scared me. Jason never really scared me. The thing that used to scare me was ghosts. Ghosts are what used to terrify me as a little kid.
Okay. It's just ghosts in general. Just ghosts are what terrify you. Interesting. Yeah. I've never really been afraid of Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers either. I've never had a dream where any of them have ever appeared. I've never been chased by them, not that I can remember anyway. And so that's really interesting. That's really cool. So, again, I mean, your paths are all very similar. Like, I think all of our paths, all of our, all of us who are, but even for you, Brandon, I mean, you're born in 92, but even still for you, I mean, you're what, 32 now, even for you, there's this, there's somebody who is, which I guess this is kind of how it goes, but there's somebody who's older in your life that introduces it to you somehow by some means. And for me, it was my brother Neil. I've talked about this on the channel many times. He's the one that got me into Halloween and Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, back in those days, they were the hot thing at that time. I mean, this is the early 80s. So that was the thing. That was horror then. And of course, I was like 4 or 5 years old, so I was too young to be going to the movie theater, but I was old enough to be aware of the hot hip thing that all the kids were talking about, at school. And I remember he had this buddy of his in school who was a great artist, and he drew a picture of Freddy Krueger for me. And I forget the guy's name. Neil would probably remember his name. But I remember I taped that with Scotch tape to my wall, and I just loved it. I was like, yeah, it was great. I loved it. And of course, Neil introduced me to Halloween, and for him, it became his favorite horror movie and character. Yes, because of, the mask is really cool, and the music and the lighting and the, and the character and all that is fantastic, but apparently, according to Neil, it was the first horror movie he ever watched that never gave him nightmares. And that's not to say that it's not a scary movie. It was just the first movie that he was able to go to sleep on and wake up and not be terrified, in the middle of the night. So that just made him like the movie even more. And so that was it for me. And I just got into, the Freddy and the Jason and the Michael and all that kind of stuff. And the kids in school were dressing up as them and playing them at recess and all that. And so I think everybody's journey, is very similar. There's usually somebody that introduces you to it. It's not, today, maybe it's easier today that kids will, although it probably still is the same thing. But I could see kids today discovering it on their own without any influence because of the ease of access to information and entertainment and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, if you're like a 7-year-old kid today who's got an iPhone, and they are out there, I mean, it would be very easy for you to suddenly discover Terrifier, right? Without any sort of influence from any older brother or sister or parent or anything like that. Whereas back in the 80s, and even the 90s, I mean, you usually had to have somebody introduce it to you because you didn't have it right at, your fingertips. But that's really interesting. Very, 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 very cool. Okay, very cool. All right, so my next question for you guys is, what are your favorite horror genres? Like, talk to me about your favorite horror genre or genres. I mean, they can be a bit combined, and why? What is it about your favorite horror? Maybe it's something that you want to see more of that they don't do anymore, or I don't know. Let's go counter. I was about to say something else there. Counterclockwise. Let's put the L in there, ladies and gentlemen. Counterclockwise. Counterclockwise, and start with Brandon. Start with Thomas. What's your favorite horror genre, Thomas, and why? Is it the monster, the universal
monster? It's definitely
monster
movies and creature features.
Cool. So tell me what.
Slashers are a close second, but it's definitely monster movies and creature features.
Okay, so I think this is really cool because, generally
they don't make a lot of anymore.
No, well, that's it, right, buddy? Because generally speaking, in this space, usually it's, I do a poll on my, community page and what's your favorite? And slashers is through the roof. I love slashers, although it's not my favorite. So tell me, I guess it's because of what do you love about the monster creature feature monster movies that they don't make a lot of anymore? What is it about them that you absolutely love?
I don't know. It's because I grew up watching them so much. I just love them. I don't know.
Yeah, you just love the. Do you wish they would make more of them today? I guess they kind of are. A little bit,
but well, my favorite of the monster movies is werewolf movies. That's my favorite. And they're making some. Like we got one coming out next month, and then the Wolfman coming out in January. I am not looking forward to either of them.
Really? You're not looking forward to the Wolfman in January?
Well,
it's Lee Winnell, Invisible Man.
One red flag is that it went from October to January. That's never a good sign.
Well, not necessarily. January used to be a dumping ground for horror movies, but now tide's turning a little bit.
And good directors can make bad movies. I don't know.
It's true. It's true.
We'll see.
Do we know why it was moved? Was there a reason they gave?
They haven't said.
Okay, well, it could have been just a pact. Maybe they didn't want to go up against Terrifier. Maybe they didn't want to, I got to look back and see what was out around that time. But there could have been sort of maybe they thought.
I mean, I'll probably go see it, but I'm keeping my expectations low. Maybe that's a good way to do it.
That's probably a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it.
And there's one coming out next month where it looks like half the world turns into werewolves or something on the night of a super moon.
Really?
And this trailer ends with this guy on a machine gun blowing werewolves. So I'm like, this is just freaking zombies now. No.
I haven't heard of this one. What's this one called?
Called Werewolves.
Isn't that the one that's like Frank Grillo versus all the werewolves?
Yeah, it's Frank Grillo.
Like half the world turned into werewolves a year ago, and now it's like about to happen again or something.
Oh my God!
Maybe it might be fun.
Werewolves.
Thomas, have you seen I Was a Teenage Werewolf with Michael Landon? I finally saw that during Halloween. That's a good movie.
That's one I have never seen.
It's good.
I've never seen it.
It's very dated, but I actually liked it.
Did you guys see the what was that one? Werewolves Within or something? Werewolves Within.
That one was pretty good.
That was all right. That was all right. Of course, the cute lead too makes it that much.
I mean,
more
maybe Wolfman will be all right. I don't know. I've been burned. Universal has burned me so many times with The Mummy in 2017, and then Dracula Untold before that.
Right, I hear you. Now, what did you think of The Invisible Man from Blumhouse?
I thought it was good up to the third act, and then you know what it is, and it's just personally me. When it was revealed that it was just a suit and wasn't like science fiction, it was just a suit. I don't know, something about that I just did not like.
Okay.
That's just me personally. But otherwise, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Well, the same director is doing Wolfman coming out in January, so you never know. You never know. But you know what I appreciate about your takes? I can, again, I can tell that you take it seriously. You're like, hang on. I mean, this is, the creature features, the monster movies. This is my jam. And you're looking at The Invisible Man the way some of us would analyze and look at like a Halloween movie. Yeah. But you're like, it was good up until this point, but I don't know, the suit, I was wanting this more, this. I can appreciate that. I can. That's good because you want it to be good, right? You want to love everything, but maybe it's a good sign that you at least liked it, and maybe Wolfman will do it for. I didn't know there was like a zombie one coming out next month.
Well, it's not zombies. It's the werewolves are like zombies. There's so many, and they're blowing them away with a machine gun. I'm like.
You could have silver bullets in there. We have to wait and see.
I guess we'll have. Is it a comedy or is it meant to be taken?
No, I think it's meant to be taken. Well, probably not meant to be taken that seriously.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So yeah, creature features, monster movies for Thomas. Rob, what about you? Your favorite? I know you said you're not into the gore or anything like that. Your favorite horror genre?
I mean, my favorite horror movie of all time is Halloween, but I'm not too big into slashers because it gets too much blood and gore.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I'm more psychological, where you have to think a little bit. Have you seen any of the Stepfather movies, Dave?
I haven't. No, I have not.
So the first one
there's the older one. Right.
Yeah, the older, not the new one in 2009, which was a decent remake.
Okay.
Which had one in 1987, then one in 1989. The one in 1992 went straight to Showtime or HBO. It was horrible. The main actor was not in it. Terry O'Quinn, he's one of my favorite actors. He plays the stepfather in the first two.
Right.
And the reason I like psychological, for the most part, with those stories, they could really happen in real life. I know they kind of add extra effect to those type of stories with Silence of the Lambs,
right,
and stuff like that. But I just kind of like those type of horror movies because that could happen. The Stepfather was based on an actual story. I don't know if you ever heard of John List. He murdered his family in the 70s. Then he was on the run for, 20, 25 years. It was the first case they featured on America's Most Wanted. and they ended up arresting him a couple weeks later. So the first case they had, first arrest, but that's how The Stepfather started, loosely based on that story.
Okay.
But it's something that could actually happen, and it kind of freaks me out. You know, that could happen. It's not like a supernatural Jason or a Freddy, even though that's kind of scary too, like in your dreams.
Oh yeah.
You know, what could happen. But that to me, but still, the holy grail to me is Halloween.
Yeah.
For actual, what I call scary movies and not really horror movies, because I mean, it's just, I don't think anything will ever come close to being to my favorite horror movie other than Halloween.
Right.
I mean, I offer that challenge to any filmmaker, to you, Dave and Bruce, to make that happen someday. But
maybe, you never know.
Yeah. I just, to me, that's the holy grail right there. I went to the Halloween 45 convention last year, and it was just so surreal to see those sites.
Yeah.
The Myers
was that your first time there?
Yeah. First time there.
Very cool.
Talked to Darren and Frank out there too. So that was cool to meet them. It was just to meet all those people involved, even with the shitty sequels too.
Yeah. It's
just one franchise that even if they make a remake again in a couple years, it's the same storyline. I'll still go and see it just because.
Well, it's because you're a Halloween fan.
Yeah, I'm a Halloween fan.
That's it.
But yeah, if anyone ever gets a chance, check out Stepfather 1 and 2 from 87 and 89.
87, 89, yeah.
Those are really good.
Okay. I'm aware of them. I remember them, but I have not seen them. I've not seen them. So for Rob, it's really all about the more that psychological thriller. This could really, like true crime kind of thing. Yeah. Like, well, this could really happen here. You know
like Silence of the Lambs too.
Like,
that's one of my favorites ever too. I've never been a big Seven fan. I've only seen that once or twice.
Really? Oh wow, I love Seven.
But like Silence of the Lambs, if that's on TV, I got to watch it. I know they edit it out on TV,
right?
But it's just love to go to that movie site too. That's right outside of Pittsburgh where they filmed most of that movie.
Yeah.
But I love that movie.
Seven is dripping with mood and atmosphere. It's always raining in that movie. Brandon, your favorite horror genre and why?
I am the exact opposite. Slashers are my favorite.
Slashers are your favorite. I love it. Own it, baby.
There's really none that I don't like, come to think of it. But yeah, slashers take the cake. I think they're just the most fun, and it oftentimes just goes back to what we grew up watching. Right.
Yeah. And what? So why? Like, what is it about the slashers that you love? Say over, something like like a Silence of the Lambs or like a Seven. Not that you don't like those, but if your preference is no, I'd much rather the slashers. Is it the blood? Is it the gore? Is it not that? Is it maybe is it just they're a little lighter, so they're easy to digest, or that like what is it specifically? Or maybe you've never really thought about it, and I'm putting you on the spot here. But what is it that you can think of anyway that is why it's your favorite?
I think the thing that you say a lot about, like, it depends on what we're measuring by.
Right.
Because like Silence of the Lambs is better than almost every slasher movie, but the slasher movies are more fun to watch.
Right.
I think Scream was the first one that I watched, and I was like, oh, this is different. There's like something more elevated here. And most slashers don't do that, but I'm always down to give one the chance to do it.
Right. So, that's cool.
I think that's it.
And what is your favorite slasher film?
Depending on my mood, either Halloween or Scream. Or Texas Chainsaw, the originals.
So either the original Halloween, the original Scream, or the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay.
Yeah, cool. For sure.
Cool. Yeah. And Chris, my man, your favorite and why?
I am also a slasher guy.
Yeah.
And I think it's basically because, I was growing up through the 80s, and that's what was popular. Like, seemed like there was a new slasher movie coming out every week, especially in the, the early to mid 80s until it started to die off. But yeah, I'd say definitely slashers. And then I was big into zombies for a while. Then it just got oversaturated ever since Walking Dead became huge. And now it's like, I don't really watch too much zombie stuff anymore, but every once in a while you find one. But when they started to get popular in the, around the early to mid 2000s, like Shaun of the Dead and a couple of Romero movies that came out back then, I got really big into it. And then when The Walking Dead started, those first few seasons was really, really good. Then it kind of got a little ridiculous towards the last few seasons, but I still watched it.
So I
just because
of course,
yeah, just because I wanted to see how it ended, and I actually have every issue. I have like these 4 big giant books of all the Walking Dead issues, all like condensed. So I wanted to see how it compared to, how the books ended or how the comics ended and how they ended the show.
Right.
So, because a lot of characters that died early off in the comics were still around towards when the show ended, they were still around. So it was like, oh, it's cool how they had to change things. But that's those are my two main genres.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. You know what? For me, I would say that I don't know if slasher has at any point ever been my favorite genre. I've just always liked, the main slasher movies because obviously in the 80s that they were the sort of at the front and center, of everything. But I think as I've gotten older, I do, as you guys know, and as most certainly everybody who's watching does, I'm much more, the psychological, more of the cerebral. When I say cerebral, I don't mean pretentious cerebral, something that's so elevated that they think, it's like, what the hell is it? Right. I just mean something that is, and I think that it can happen for some people and maybe it doesn't happen for others. But I think for me, it's sort of just as I've grown and I've gotten wiser with more life experience and, taste can change and, and I too find that true crime, real life stuff really kind of scary and spooky and it could really happen. And not that the screams and I know what you did last summers and I guess I know what you did last summer. Well, could it happen? Well, maybe it could happen. But the Halloweens and all that aren't great fun. But yeah, when there's a movie out there that takes its time, it's more nuanced, that's slow burn, it feels real. It's not over sensationalized right out of the gate. Man, it can get me. It can really, really get me. And there's a lot of wonderful foreign horror films that do that really well too, in the psychological area. But I just love, like, even something like, House of the Devil, I thought was just, some people are like, that's kind of boring. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's something, I like it when things feel, there's a real, it feels real, there's something about it that feels, anyways. So yeah, no, I would say my favorite horror subgenre is definitely the psychological thriller, probably followed by the slasher. I do like it. I just think that slasher movies are, for me, I think, and maybe that's what people love about them, is that they are, the formula of a slasher movie, generally speaking, is predictable, right? There's a formula to it. There's an A, there's a B, there's a C, and they usually don't deviate from that. You generally know how a slasher movie is going to go. We start with a group of kids and they're somewhere, and then as a slasher comes in, and then one by one they begin to fall, and then we end up with the final girl, and then usually we know how it's going to go. There might be slight differences in there, but that's usually how it goes. But no, that's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. Very cool indeed. Okay, let me see here. So what do you guys, so in the world of horror today, well, when we think about where we are in 2024 and the horror movies that we've gotten over the last, a couple of years, what do you guys want to see from horror today? What do you think there is too much of? What do you think there is not enough of? What do you want to see for you from horror today? Chris, we'll start with you.
Keep up the originality. It seems like the last couple of years, we've got some really original, different type of horror movies. Think, was it Long Legs?
Yep.
The one with Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Yep.
I went to see that. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was, there was a lot of hype. I didn't think it lived up to the hype quite as much, but it was still a pretty good movie. But that was a different take on the serial killer, FBI. Think Silence of the Lambs, because FBI person following a serial killer. But it was a nice, interesting, different take on it, and then the whole. I don't want to give any spoilers away if anybody hasn't seen it yet, but how it all plays out. in the end and everything was a different take on it.
Right.
So, and I know there's a whole bunch of them out there that nothing's coming to mind off the top of my head, but
well, even movies like, and I don't know if you like them or not, but in terms of the originalities, movies like Barbarian, right? Or Talk to Me, right? Or, even Hereditary from, a few years ago. There's a saying where, and people and I get why they say this, but, there are, and this is not an excuse, but in reality, there really are no new stories to tell. There's just new ways to tell them. So, there's a saying where it's like, everybody has a story about going to the grocery store to get some milk. We've all gone to the grocery store to get some milk. Every one of us here, everyone in the chat room, everyone here on the show, we've all gone to the grocery store to get some milk, or but it's what happens to us on the way to the grocery store that can be very different, right? And that's the meat of the story. So, there's as long as you can think of, interesting and unique ways to tell sort of a story that we've seen before, add something new to it, or, a bit of a different spin on, or whatever the case is, I think is really, really cool. And, Hereditary, I thought was a really cool film, and Talk to Me. We've seen movies like Talk to Me before, but maybe not quite like this. We've seen movies like Barbarian before, but maybe not quite like this, or whatever the case is. And that can be difficult to try and think of those things. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there has been some pretty decent quote unquote original horror over the last few years, and I hope I hope it continues. And I was a big fan of Long Legs. Actually, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Yeah. Anyways, Brandon.
I mean, a Dave and Bruce original feature, of course.
Well, we do. Well, we have some stuff in the pipe, so stay tuned.
I agree with the originality that we're seeing more of it, and that's fun. I miss, might be a hot take, I kind of miss the early 2000s. They were just so mean.
Okay.
Like, I'm not talking extended version of Rob Zombie's Halloween with like rape scenes just to happen, but Hills Have Eyes, like that remake. Like, I don't know, just the drawn out scenes in that where you're like, wow, that was really fucked up. How can that get more fucked up? And then he's sucking a boob with a gun to a baby's head, and you're like, that's how. Got it.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
I don't know, I think just a little bit ballsier in terms of the slashing.
I gotcha. So in the world of, say, slasher films, which I guess The Hills Have Eyes would be, I guess, a slasher film for all intents and purposes, I guess. And that Hills Have Eyes remake, I think it's one of the better remakes out there, to be honest with you. I don't know if you guys agree, but in
I agree.
Comparison to the original Wes one, which is, I'm not taking anything away from it, but obviously it's dated, it's 1970s. It's one of the better remakes out there.
Well, Wes wrote the remake too, I think.
Oh, did he?
Didn't they?
Yeah, I think he did.
I think they did both of them.
Oh.
Like all four, however you want to say it.
Okay. I did not know that. Yeah, no, I remember liking it.
Could be wrong, but I think so.
To your point, it was gritty and mean. Mean, I think, is a great word to use, because I think you can use that with, like, Hostile, right? You know what I mean? Mean, cruel. Yeah. I mean, it's a torture film, but, It's
a balance between mean and fun. Like,
right.
Keep the somewhat light ending, kind of. I mean, unless you're The Descent, then, you don't need the light ending. But
Right.
Fun but mean.
Fun but mean.
Weird juxtaposition.
No, I get it. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I remember I saw Saw when it came out in the theater, and I remember really liking. Now, you watch the first Saw today, and it's like tame in comparison to where the series went. But when that first Saw came out in 2004, I saw it in the movie theater, and I remember I had just when was that? Yeah. And I remember really liking it. And I remember being absolutely blown away when he gets up off the ground at the end of the movie. I never saw that coming. I really did think it was a dead body just lying there through the whole thing. And
not only did I not see it coming, but that was the first horror movie I ever saw in a theater.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
You have like Elm Street and Scream and stuff, and then that's your first theater experience. You're like, this is what I want to do. What could be more fun?
That's
Nice.
really cool. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I remember being like, holy shit. And then Hostel, I think the first Hostel I watched at home. I think I rented it and I watched it at home. And then Hostel 2, I can't remember. Well, even Eli Roth's Cabin Fever. You know, even that, I mean, I know that doesn't, you know, it's not like up there with like your Saws and your Hostels, but I remember when that came out, I saw that in the theater and I thought it was kind of, you know what I mean?
Mean and fun.
Mean and fun. There you go.
Yeah.
Mean and fun. So Brandon says mean and fun, ladies and gentlemen. Mean and fun. All right, Rob, what do you want to see more from the world of horror today?
So I just turned 49. I'm becoming a grumpy old man. I think the genre is kind of catering too much to the teenage crowd,
Okay.
young college crowd, where it's typical jump scares, token characters.
Now, here's a question for you, Rob, before you continue. Do you think it's always sort of been that way, but we're just getting old now?
Yeah, I could say that, yeah.
Because you look at Friday the 13th, Elm Street, the Halloweens, Chucky, you know, when you look at the 80s, you know, I mean, all the teenagers were going to those, right? And all the, and now we're old and it's just like, fucking son of a bitch. Anyway, sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, you're fine. But I just think the majority are just that same formula of token characters, jump scares, the young crowd. But there are some that are more, I want to see more mature type, like I said, the psychological horror movies. I just saw Heretic. I think that's how you pronounce it. With Hugh Grant.
Yep.
Excellent movie. Very mood and atmosphere. You would love it with the mood and atmosphere.
I definitely want to see it.
But yeah, I saw it this past Sunday. I kind of want to see more films like that because I just think it's just the typical, like I said, we're catering to that teenage crowd because we want to get them into theaters. I think with the past Halloween trilogy, that's what they did too much of.
Right.
Instead of like honing in on the actual true fans from, you know, going back to Generation X and kids like us that grew up in the 80s. Well, we got to get the kids in the seats that are now, you know, 17 or 14 to 20 years old. And I think that just really killed the good things they did with the new trilogy. I just think there was way too many negative attributes when all is said and done. I think it was average at best for that whole trilogy with David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. But there was worse Halloween movies, I'll say, but I don't think they were anything special. Let's just put it that way. They cater too much to a certain demographic.
Right. So you're looking for something that is maybe taking a little more risks, not catering so much to, the teenager, which is going to be tough because horror movies traditionally have been very popular in that demographic because they're date movies, right? You know what I mean? And you take your boyfriend and your girlfriend and she's got her head in your shoulder and you're like, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Right. And that's, generally that's, and at the drive-in watching the creature features or the monster movies back in the 40s, not the 40s, but the 50s and the 60s at the drive-in watching, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Mummy, whatever it is. And they're all that kind of stuff, And so generally they've been very popular with that young crowd. And I think generally if we're talking about slasher movies or mean and fun movies, that's a different genre right there, Brandon. We've created a different genre, the mean and fun genre. I think they will probably always sort of lean a little more sort of to the younger crowd. But I get your point. Maybe not forget about, the more mature stories as well. I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Long Legs up until the last quarter of the movie because it had that Silence of the Lambs vibe to it. It took some good risk, but the risk at the end, that whole supernatural element. Sorry, spoilers. I was like, are you shitting me? I mean, I just like, I invested 75% into that movie, but that last quarter, I just felt it was just a buzzkill.
Yeah, because I think for you, and I can understand, it feels real. It feels like a plausible, real sort of thing. And depending on who you are and your beliefs and all that kind of stuff, you may profess that the occult is real and the devil and all that, and that's great. However, when you're going one way with the film and then they bring in a little bit of the supernatural, it feels almost like it takes away from the realism, quote unquote, of it, right? So I can understand that. I can understand that. Almost like a crutch, like, they're relying on, oh, he's not that bad, it's just because he's possessed by the devil or something like that. Right. I can understand that. Thomas, I'm thinking maybe you want more monster movies.
Oh, that would be great. Absolutely.
But tell me, man, tell me the state of horror today. What do you want to see? Where do you think it should go? And if it's monster movies, sell it to me. Just talk to me, man.
Well, I'm going to piss a lot of people off here. I want a little less Terrifier and a little bit more like In a Violent Nature.
Ooh, okay. A little less Terrifier and a little more In a Violent Nature. Thomas Christy, talk to me. Let's sell it. Sell it for me.
I just don't like the splatter, 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 splatter. And it seems like that's the way it's going now.
Right.
Like, all these movies are going to try to be splatter, 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 splatter. I just don't like it. But yeah, I would love to see more monster movies, but will that happen? I don't know. It
is a tough genre to sell in a lot of ways because, here's a question for you. Do you think they need, like with the monster films and the creature films, do you think they need to go, do you think it's important that they reinvent it, not remove the DNA, but reinvent it in the way that it is palatable for modern audiences? That's what I thought they did with The Invisible Man, although you probably are far more of an expert in the creature feature monster movie subgenre than I am. But when I watched the Invisible Man, I was like, oh, this feels modern, a modern take. I really liked it. Wolfman, obviously, the jury is still out on that. Do you think they need to go to not Tom Cruise as the Mummy? That was like blockbuster territory. I think we can all agree that the creature feature monster movies probably still need to feel small and gritty and more of that independent. We don't want to feel like it's, the Wolfman starring Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and directed by Martin Scorsese or something. It feels probably too big. But you tell me, Thomas, do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, they could modernize it, but I think also what they should do is every Halloween, because I've seen them in the movies before they showed them, right? And they just do this around October. Just bring out a couple of the Universal Monster movies for a weekend in October, and I guarantee you people would go see them. I know, because I went to see a showing of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, and that theater was packed.
Wow.
And it wasn't old people.
Right.
It was young people.
Wow. So
I know people still like monsters, because if people didn't like monsters, why would Universal's opening this new theme park next year? One whole section of that theme park's being dedicated to the Universal monsters. So I know there are people out there that love them because they want to do that. But yeah, they could reinvent them. Yeah.
Yeah, just but not completely. Not reinvent them. Not reinvent them like the Tom Cruise The Mummy, right? That was too. Did you feel that was too big? Too much of a blockbuster? Just way too.
I think the biggest thing that pissed me off about that is, they were going to have to do a female mummy. They were going to do the female mummy.
Right.
And then she didn't do anything. It was all Tom Cruise the whole damn movie.
Well,
that was that problem that had Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah, what's funny is that you could be right. He's too big. He's too big. He's too. He's always got his arms up here like this when he's running. But and don't get me wrong. I mean, Tom Cruise. I actually like Tom Cruise as an actor.
I like Tom Cruise too, but not in that.
But not in a Mummy remake. I got you. All right. Yeah, I've always thought that if you're going to do something like the Universal, I quite enjoy The Invisible Man from top to bottom. And I'm hoping the Wolfman or Wolfman, I guess it's not the Wolfman, I think it's just Wolfman, does have a bit of that the smaller sort of vibe to it, not a blockbuster vibe, which I think is important. And if they're opening this section of the theme park,
yep,
maybe there is a bigger plan here. to kind of, try to get people on board, to try and reintroduce the monsters to a new generation, while still sort of, keeping true to the old school, because they've done Wolfman now, they've done The Invisible Man.
And they're supposed to be doing Creature from the Black Lagoon next.
Okay.
James Wan and Atomic Monster.
Okay, yeah. which obviously the production company then would probably be Blumhouse as well then, probably, because I think they've done the other two movies. Okay, so they're doing The Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's no doubt then they'll probably, because The Mummy was Universal. That's a separate thing. That's outside of what they're doing now, I believe. So
and there's a Bride of Frankenstein movie coming out, but it's not Universal. It's got Christian Bale in his Frankenstein or something. I don't know, but it's not Universal.
Right, interesting.
Is that the one where Frankenstein's all tatted up?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
he looks like
Jared
the Joker
Leto's
from
Joker.
Suicide Squad.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so they're creating, but that's not related to The Invisible Man and Wolfman.
No, that's not Universal.
That's not Universal. So, yeah, I'll be very curious to see, because it's clear with these three movies, Wolfman, The Invisible Man, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, that they are slowly but surely building a universe. And not necessarily a universe that's connected to each other, like it's all in the same universe, although you never know. Maybe at the end they'll have like a Monster Squad sort of movie where they're all together or something. I don't know. But in terms of like they're building a monster universe is what I mean. And I'll be curious to see how they handle, you know what, the big one for me will be Dracula. How they really handle, because you've got Nosferatu, which is
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for
good.
that. That looks so. My only worry about that is Bill Skarsgård just going to act like Pennywise is Nosferatu? Because if that's the case, that's going to piss me. Is he going to be all goofy, or is he going to be like serious?
The tone of the film feels very serious to me.
But they did say they're not going to show him until you see it in the movies, which I like.
Fantastic.
You're not going to see it.
That's the way to do it.
I can't wait for that.
Way to do it. I hope he, yes, I hope whatever he looks like, he doesn't remind me of Pennywise, because obviously Pennywise is an iconic, character, and his role was good. He was good. He did a great job. So I don't imagine he's going to be there going, "What's going on, Georgie?" He's not going to be doing any of that, right? So, but you're in terms of his theatrics, right, and how he portrays the character, and how he's done up and what he looks like, because Skarsgård's got such a like, even under the Pennywise makeup, you can still see him. Do you know what I mean? To a degree, that you can kind of still see his facial features a little bit, his nose and all that stuff. So hopefully he looks very different. Like I'm talking like, what's his face and his transformation into like the Penguin. You know what I mean? Like not Danny DeVito. I'm talking about like now, on the the new show. What's his name? The actor? Oh, the Irish actor.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, right? You would never know that was Colin Farrell. You would never know that was Colin Farrell. I'd be like, I didn't know it was Colin Farrell at all. I'm hoping it's that kind of, like, in the spirit of that kind of a transformation, where you're just like, if you didn't tell me that was Scar, I would not have even known it.
Have you seen the pictures of Billy Zane as Marlon Brando? He's just like him.
He looks just like him. And then I watched the trailer and I thought he still looked just like him, but I wasn't that keen on the trailer. It felt, I thought the movie was going to be something else, and then they're presenting it to me as this, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I think I just got to get on board with it. But yeah, no, he looks fantastic. That's what I'm talking about. So hopefully, Thomas, it'll be that, because
has everyone here seen the original Nosferatu?
Years ago, I haven't seen it in years.
Parts of it. I've seen Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah,
it's one of the few old black and white monster movies I haven't seen.
It's a classic. Obviously, it's dated. There's obviously, because it's an old film, but it's good. It's good. I remember, it's probably been about 20 years since I've seen it. But I did like it. And but that's also because I really like those old movies and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I mean, again, that's not connected to what the Blumhouse is doing. But I'll be very curious to see how they handle Dracula and how they handle Frankenstein as well. Because, I mean, I think it's inevitable that they are probably going to move in that direction at some point, right? You know what I mean? If these movies, like if Wolfman does really well, like The Invisible Man did, and it's a good movie like The Invisible Man, oh, that's interesting. And then The Creature from the Black Lagoon comes out, and it's pretty good too. You're like, oh, this is interesting. You know, I'll be very curious. Do we know who's directing The Creature from the Black Lagoon, or has it not been announced?
James Wan.
Oh, James Wan is directing, so he's directing it as well.
I think so.
He might be writing it too. I'm not sure.
Okay, I mean, listen,
It's all the directing. It might be writing and directing.
Fascinating. So
And
you've got
producing.
Lee Winnell, which is James Wan's good friend. They wrote and they did Saw, and then obviously, you know, Wan goes on and does Insidious, which Winnell was in, playing, you know, one of the ghost hunters, right? And then and of course the first Insidious I think is fantastic. The first Conjuring I think is really good in terms of a major studio released modern kind of movie. I think it's great. And then you got Winnell, who did Insidious 3. Insidious 3 was way better than it had any right being, because it's the third movie. It's like Insidious 3. It's actually not that bad. And I think it's largely because Lee Winnell was directing it. It was actually pretty good. And then he goes off and does The Invisible Man. And then now he's doing Wolfman. And now you got Wan coming in to do, you know, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So it could be pretty good. I mean, this might be, I mean, every filmmaker's got a stinker somewhere at some point, I'm sure, but this might be pretty good in terms of the creature feature monster movie verse.
And on top of all of that, Del Toro's doing Frankenstein also.
He shot it here in Toronto. Lynn Griffin's husband, who was in It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2, playing Sam's dad, he is in Frankenstein. And so I had a great chance to talk to him about what it was like working on set. They built a gigantic ship, which is just this big set piece, and it was sitting in the Toronto harbor, floating on Lake Ontario for I don't know how many months, 2 or 3 months or something like that, and they shot down there, and you could see it. It's huge, awesome. Absolutely huge. Yeah. So that was shot here. I didn't see the
ship, but I saw pictures of like the village and stuff.
Oh yeah. It's I'm really, again, not connected to what Blumhouse is doing, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, if it's really good, then I'm really excited about that. And Sean was telling me all about the set and talking to Del Toro and all that. And I'm just like, that's fucking great. That's great. Did you?
Is it based off the novel?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure that information's probably easily obtainable. I'm sure. But yeah, no, I'm excited about that. And I was like, did you slip him a little It's Me, Billy, Chapter 2? Did you give him a little?
So between Lee Winnell and James Wan, if they get to Dracula and Frankenstein, who do you guys want to see do which character? If each of them were to direct.
That's a good question, Brandon.
I don't even know if I have an answer.
You know what? I think
I know is I want him to get Rick Baker out of retirement so he can do the makeup for both, but I know that's not going to happen.
There you go.
Yeah, he's long retired now.
For both, but especially Frankenstein.
What about Greg Nicotero, though?
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, Rick Baker said there's one project he would come back for. If they'd had him do a movie about Lon Chaney and they let him do the makeup for Lon Chaney, he said he might consider coming back with doing that, but that's the only way he'd come back.
Okay. Interesting.
Nicotero would be interesting given how many zombie projects he's worked on to see him do something like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Because it's not a zombie, but it's in the same vein. So
I think I would like to see Winnell do Dracula. Excuse me, James Wan do Dracula, I think. I think that would be, and Winnell do Frankenstein. But you know what? Depending on how gigantic Del Toro's Frankenstein is, if it's huge, and I mean like maybe at the box office, but also it's a fantastic film. It's like, oh my God, this is Guillermo del Toro's a magnificent masterpiece. I mean, that might be hard to follow, even though it's a completely separate universe, you know? So now we're going to do our Frankenstein. It's like, Yeah. It's like, so they made it.
Well, you know how Hollywood is. Once one thing's a hit, they do 10 of them.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But it might be.
Isn't Del Toro's going to Netflix though?
Is it? Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
So, but
that's too bad. But it could still be great.
It still stands.
It could still be amazing. All right, let's talk some Halloween. Let's talk some Halloween. Let's talk Halloween. All right. Guys, give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts. How you feeling? It's been a few, it's been a couple years now. All right. Oh, okay, he's ready to go. He's ready to go. Thomas, take it away. Take it away.
Let it sit for 10 years until we really want it to come back instead of shoving it down our damn throats. There, I don't need to say anything else.
There you go. There you go. Let it sit for 10 years before shoving it down our damn throats. We don't need any more. Do you guys, Chris, how do you feel about it?
I'll go one step further.
Oh, God, he's going further.
One step further. Let it die.
Whoa! It needs to die.
It needs to die. If you're going to continue it, and I'm not going to say do the anthology route, but come up with a separate, you could come up with a whole new storyline and involve Halloween, and it doesn't have to involve Michael or, for the love of God, Laurie Strode. I'm over that character, and don't get me wrong, that Halloween is my favorite franchise. Even the god awful ones I'll watch every once in a great while, but just do something different. We don't need a fourth version of Laurie's character or that storyline, because if you count the Rob Zombie version, that's 3 different versions we've had now already.
Yeah.
So, and not to mention the Thorn trilogy. So
Chris is angry tonight, folks.
Going on a rant, damn it. Just come up with something different, or go wait longer than 10 years. Go 20 years if you want to, but they won't. It'll be 3 years, and they'll probably come out, oh, Michael's somehow alive. It wasn't Michael that got torn up in the thing.
It was Laurie's ex-husband, and he
switched masks with Corey somehow, and Corey wasn't dead.
That's right. Brandon, how you feeling, man? It's been a couple years since Halloween ends. What are you feeling here?
I feel like the only way you get longevity out of the franchise at this point is if you, I don't want to say do a remake, but keep Michael, Judith, maybe Loomis, everybody else's original characters. You do a quasi remake of the original movie, but from there, you can end it in a way to where it's affected not just like one final girl, but the town of Haddonfield as a whole. Like they've tried to do with the sequels, but you go back and watch that first movie and Michael ran into like 5 people.
Right.
Have the whole town affected, and then sequel-wise, TV show, whatever, you can do kind of the anthology thing where you follow different characters from Haddonfield, and like Michael can be in most of them, doesn't have to be in all of them, but
right.
I think something along those lines is the only way you continue it with any sort of originality beyond doing like a Loomis prequel or something.
Gotcha.
Which I don't want to see.
Yeah. No, we all know how I feel. Rob,
I'll watch it, but it's not my preference.
It's true. Rob, how you feeling? Where are you at?
I would like.
Are you feeling so dirty that you just need to have a shower or something? What's going on?
Here's the thing. I would like an anthology, but if it was just a movie, I'd go the anthology route. But I've said this in other chats before, and I've beaten this to death, but it'll never happen. But I would like to see the aftermath of, let's say, Halloween 2, 1981, what happened after to the town. Because with all the Halloween films, we see October 30th and October 31st, for the most part. I know Rob Zombie kind of transcended. He had like a Christmas scene in one scene, I think in the Halloween 2007. I could be wrong in that, but I think there was snow falling at one time in one of those scenes.
Right.
But we always, except for Halloween 3, I think that started off on October the 22nd. But we never really see November 1st. I know in Halloween 2, for like 30 seconds, we do see November 1st. I have each episode a month after the aftermath of Halloween 2, 1981. So the first episode's November, second episode's December. Then you get up to July 4th and the town's starting to freak out. Halloween's right around the corner. Yeah, Michael's dead, but we're still freaked out about that whole incident. But I can't say enough. We never see the aftermath, and why not? It'll never happen. I know that. But why not kind of research that in some way? But it's a lost cause. I know it won't happen just because you always say 2 production costs. Let's say if it's after 1978, the production costs go up big time because you have to have late 70s, early 80s type wardrobe and cars and houses and stuff like that. Unless you do it in a studio, but you only can do so much in a studio too. But I keep saying have 12 episodes, November, December, January, February, leading up to a year, or maybe every episode's 1 year after the events.
Right.
But it's wishful thinking. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it would be tough. I mean, again, anytime you set something in a different time period, that will up your budget. Like I said the other day on one of my shows, the flashback sequence in Halloween Kills was relatively easy to do because it was contained, right? The house was on a soundstage. They had control over that. It wasn't a house out, and then the alleyways. I mean, you can go down, find any alley in your town or city in an older part of town and go there at night. And if there's no cars on the road, and because the houses are, 50 or 60 years old, I mean, you could say it's 1978 and who's not going to believe you, right?
Right.
And then of course you bring in, a couple of old cars and you put them on the side of the road and there you go. And that's what they did in Kills. So it was relatively easy, but to set a whole movie or a whole series back at that time, I think I had mentioned, I didn't know how much per episode Stranger Things was, but somebody had looked it up, I believe, and said the first season of Stranger Things was something like $2 million an episode or something like that. And so, there's 8 episodes and, 8 times 2 is 16. That's 16 million, for the first season of Stranger Things. And I can guarantee you it's way more than that now. And a big part of that is obviously all the kids are now adults and they get big raises. And a huge part of that is the cast, but also if you're setting something in the 1980s and you're doing a series that's set in that time period and you're out and about and everywhere you go has to look like it's 1986, that's a huge cost. And so it's not that it can't be done. It's not that it hasn't been done, but it can't be done for like, $10 million, right? You know what I mean? Right. And so it'd be a substantial increase in budget when you're doing something in that time period. How do you guys feel then, Rob? Because I'm just going to piggyback off of something you said, which is interesting, and I'll get everybody's thoughts on this. We all know, or maybe you don't, but John Carpenter's original idea for Halloween 4 was to not have Michael Myers in the movie. He was thinking about it being a little more, or was it Halloween 3? No. Was it Halloween? No.
I think it was 4.
I think it was 4. Yeah. He wanted it to be a little more cerebral, more about the town and what the town was dealing with 10 years later, kind of something to your effect of what you're talking about. And the film by nature would have been a little more cerebral just by the fact that it's not a full-on blown slasher movie, but it's more about how the town is coping, and they've banned Halloween. They no longer celebrate Halloween. They're having a really difficult time dealing with the after effects even 10 years later, and that resentment and that suppression of Halloween and Michael Myers, almost like pretending it didn't happen. We're not going to deal with it. We're going to sweep it under the rug. That ironically brings Michael Myers back, and how he comes back in what form in terms of, I'm not sure if it was quite clear, but maybe there's something a little supernatural about it, or, whatever the case. I don't mean he's a force ghost. I just mean that something happens in the town which brings him back. Is that something that would interest you guys? Like something a little more cerebral, a little more kind of, or is it just like, no, whatever they do, it's got to be Michael Myers?
Well, to me, it worked 75% of the movie, and Halloween ends until Michael came back.
Right.
Because we found out we really don't need Michael Myers to continue the franchise. Because I like the Corey Cunningham character. But then the thing is, once Myers came back, the movie just kind of shit on its own pretty much.
Yeah, because now you have to justify him taking the mask from Michael and this transfers of this evil essence. I agree with you. Look, it's no secret on the channel. I've said that I actually was enjoying Halloween Ends, ironically, until Michael showed up. And then I thought, what the hell is it? I think I don't think the issue with Halloween Ends is the Corey Cunningham story. I think, although I do think it's the story in the wrong movie, we'll say.
Right.
I think it would have been much better received if it was somewhere else. But, Thomas, do you feel that way? Like, what were your thoughts on Halloween Ends, or how it ended, or the David Gordon Green?
First half of it, I didn't think it was that bad. And then Michael Myers showed up and I got really, really pissed really, really fast.
Right.
And then by the time the movie's over, I was like this.
See, and, I had 5 thoughts in my head there. Chris, did you feel the same way about Ends? Like, did you hate Ends from the start to finish? Or were you like, oh, this is an interesting kind of story? And then Michael showed up and you're like, what the hell's going on here?
I thought it was interesting. I was liking where it was going. When they're in the cave and they get in a fight and Corey takes a mask from him, I'm just like, there's no way that this guy is going to take down Michael Myers in a fight and take his mask. And I'm just like, it's getting kind of ridiculous. And it's just like they just shoehorned Michael in there. They clearly didn't have a plan. It seemed like after 2018, I liked it. Good movie. One of my better sequels as far as I'm concerned. I actually enjoy Kills, except for the ending of it. I'm just like, how does he magically appear in the house and no one saw him? And he gets to take, what was the daughter's name? Sorry.
Karen?
Karen, yes.
Karen, yeah.
And he takes Karen out, and then where do we go from here? It seemed like they had no plan whatsoever when it came to making ends. They didn't have an end in sight, and they just, let's create this other character, and we're going to throw Michael in there wherever we can make it fit.
Right.
And like you said, I think it's a good story if it's just the Corey story. You don't even have to put Michael in there. You could just have Corey, and it's like that essence of Michael is in the town, and they see this guy after the tragedy he had at the beginning of that movie, and they can see, like, man, there's a lot of Michael Myers in this guy, and they could have just gone that way with it and not even had Michael in it, but then it wouldn't have been a Halloween movie. So, and everybody would have been pissed off because you would have had Halloween 3 all over again. It's a Halloween movie and no Michael.
Brandon, do you feel the same? Like, were you kind of into Ends and then the Michael, or were you like one of these people that's like, no, it's the shittiest Halloween movie in the franchise?
I liked Ends, and even Michael showing up to begin with, I wasn't like, okay, what are we doing? It felt like once they were both killing, that they just kind of didn't know what to do with the rest of it.
Right.
I think if you take that trilogy and just invert it, you start with Ends, go to Kills, and then 2018, it's a way better story. It's been years since there's a Michael. You had the Corey Cunningham story that, in a better way than what they did, leads to Michael. The town goes after him. Michael kills everybody. It comes down to just Laurie and whoever else is still alive. And that's the 2018 movie.
You know what?
That trilogy backwards.
Yeah. Look, I agree with all of you. I think it's really interesting, and not that there aren't fans out there that hate it from top to bottom, back to front, up to down, north to south, whatever. I mean, they just think it's the biggest piece of shit of all time. There definitely are fans that are like that. And there are fans that think it's one of the greatest Halloween films ever made, which I also think is too far on the other side of the spectrum. But I do find it interesting that there are, myself included, the 5 of us here today, big Halloween fans. We're part of that group that actually was like, well, it's not bad. Which goes to show you that Halloween, at least I think, Halloween can live without Michael Myers. Now, I know that may be blasphemous for some. I understand it. He's the face of the franchise. It's Michael. I totally get it. But if Halloween Ends proved anything, is that the Corey Cunningham story was an interesting story because it was piggybacking off of the residual effects and the residue of Michael Myers, right? And, as you guys say, Michael Myers is still there. He's not physically there, Well, I mean, he was, but you know, he's not actually physically there. His presence is there. The effects he's having on the town, the suicides, the this, the that, the depression, the bullying, that's all him. It's all Michael Myers. And so to have his, like, this would have been such an interesting kickoff to a series. Like, I mean, it would have been really interesting if they had just brought in the plane, you know, just not a pedestrian film, but a film, you know, they had some twists and turns in there, whatever. You know, they thought about it. They wrote something interesting, but it really was just a Laurie Michael film. You know, they brought it in. It was a cool movie, great ending. This is cool. And then the Halloween series is the Corey Cunningham, you know, and then you could even have Jamie Lee Curtis, maybe not in the whole series, but maybe she's in the first couple of episodes, right, to get things going. You know what I mean? And maybe Andy Matichak is in there as well, you know, and she's in there and she could say all those same things. You know, I saw, you know, you can't date this guy. I see his eyes. And it feels like a natural extension from the films, you know, and I think that would have played. I really do. I think there may be more Halloween fans out there that actually, maybe they don't want to admit it because they feel like they're going against their, you know, their Halloween fandom. But it's like, you know what? The Corey Cunningham story is actually, you know, pretty good. It's not bad. Just wasn't in the wrong movie. That's all. I mean, I was into it, you know, because I could still feel the Michael there. And so that's 5 of us here, 5 major big Halloween fans that are like, you know, it is possible. Because, you know, before Ends came, I mean, there are certain people that are like, no, you could never do, you know, an anthology series. Look what happened to Season of the Witch. Halloween has to be about Michael all the time. Michael. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
I would argue that you have to start or end with Michael. I think he needs to be somewhere on the timeline, but I don't think he has to be there for all of the stories.
Interesting. So maybe,
but I don't know if you get Haddonfield without that initial incident, which is Michael.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, and if you want to do like the Charlie Bull story or something like that, I mean, it's still in the same universe, right? Yeah. So you can have the characters in the Bull story drive to Haddonfield. You could have, he can always be there, you know what I mean, as a presence, but to tell different stories, I think it is possible. And I think it's more possible today than it ever has been. Because anthology and series and streaming series and mini series, and it's more in the pop culture zeitgeist today than it was, you know, 45 years ago. And so obviously because there was no streaming back then, but I think it could be done. I think it could be done. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm with you guys. I think they should leave it. I think they should leave it and just at least until 2028. Because then it's the 50th year anniversary.
50.
You know what I mean? At least wait another 4 years. You know?
So Dave, like let's say it's... Oh, go ahead.
27 before we see the show or anything anyway. With not having any news this year, they're not done writing by the time you film, edit, everything. We're definitely not getting it in 25. I doubt it'll be 26 either.
Yeah, because wasn't it last Halloween 2023? I might be mistaken on this. Was it Halloween 2023 or was it earlier in the year that they had mentioned Miramax and the series and all that? Was it?
It was 2023. It was October 2023.
Okay, so
I remember.
Okay,
because,
it's right after the convention.
Because they announced Crystal Lake in October of 2022, and then they announced the Halloween there in October of 2023.
Okay, so a full year has gone by, and they did the Halloween portal thing, which, you know, no disrespect to the people that put it together, but it's like, who cares? Whatever. I can buy Halloween t-shirts anywhere. But a full year without any Halloween news, which tells me one of a couple of things. It's either they're having a very difficult time cracking the code, as I like to call it. It's like, what the hell is this going to be about? Because although you can say, you know what, we want to do a series, which is basically what the announcement was in 2023, which is we're thinking about doing a Halloween series. Okay, but that doesn't mean they know what they're doing. I mean, that just that's what they want to do because it looks like that's kind of, you know, the momentum of the tide, sure. but they may have no, and they're actually it's possible. We think that with that announcement over this last year, they've been working on it behind the scenes. Maybe not. I mean, there might be some movement, you know what I mean? Maybe they've hired somebody to write a script and pitch some ideas or whatever the case is. But with nothing at all, not even the mention of a showrunner or anything like that, did surprise me and tells me that they're either really just deep in the thick of it and they're just not quite ready yet, or there's just not a lot of movement yet. There's just not a lot of movement yet on it at all. And so, cause yeah, you would think that after one full year, there would be something, not necessarily here's the synopsis, here's the plot, here's who's in it, here's the cast, here's, not necessarily that, but something like, oh, hey, here's who's writing it, or here's what we're doing. Here's the showrunner, but nothing at all.
Yeah,
maybe
we had that with Crystal Lake before they switched up their game plan, and
that's it.
That was kind of the information we got throughout the first year, and even now since they switched up the game plan, I don't remember who, but they've announced the new showrunner since then, and this feels more like, obviously it's a completely different group of rights owners and everything, but kind of what they did with Elm Street, where granted it was right before the pandemic, but they announced that we're going to do a movie and it's going to tie to a show, and
that's it.
Where's that?
And we're kind of in that spot.
In the horror world, Elm Street.
Elm Street, yes. An Elm Street series, I think, would be really cool. I mean, an Elm Street movie. Don't get me wrong. At this point, but that would be cool too. But whatever they do with A Nightmare on Elm Street, it's got to be dark and gritty and scary. More scary than fun, Brandon. I'm sorry, but it's got to be scary. It's got to be dark and like, oh my God, this is terrifying. I don't want Freddy Krueger on that Japanese game show in his underwear playing pool. I don't want that. I don't want. Have you guys seen that? Oh my God. It's hilarious.
So Dave, let's say it's 1982. Halloween 3 comes out, but we have social media back then, internet. Going in, Michael Myers will not be in the movie. Mm-hmm. Do you think that would have had some legs to continue into an anthology series? Or still be dead on arrival?
Yeah, well, no. I think if social media was around back then and people knew what they were going in to see, I think it's very possible that that the movie could have done better. Because, again, I mean, if if it was like today back then, I mean, the vast majority of the audience would, because the marketing would have been different and all over, and they would have spent millions on marketing and people would know going in what it was. So I think the film would have done better. Whether or not it would have caught on and started a new series or franchise in terms of Season of the Witch films, I don't know. But I think
it's a creepy movie. Like I said, when I finally started watching it again in my early adult life, it wasn't like when I watched it as a kid because I was expecting Michael Myers. But it is it's got really good kills too. Maybe better than some Michael Myers kills. Yeah, I think it's a good movie. I like it. I think it's not as good as some people profess it to be. I think, and I've said this, I think what I think of whenever I watch Season of the Witch is that it is a good, serviceable early 80s horror movie. And if it didn't have Halloween in the title, I think it would have done better. And I think it would be up there with other horror movies in and around that time. Sleepaway Camp and, hey, there's Sleepaway Camp, there's The Burning, there's Season of the Witch, there's, it would be in that sort of type of thing. I just think that there's a lot of potential for Season of the Witch. And I think with a bigger budget, I'm okay to remake it. I'm not so emotionally attached that it has to be a sequel. I think if you just reimagine it, remake it, maybe even in a series, who knows? So you have a lot more time, flesh it out, and really build that paranoia and that just darkness and there's so much potential with Season of the Witch that I don't think they could meet for budgetary reasons. It feels, although I'm supposed to feel this big, it's happening all over the U.S. and in Phoenix and in New York and in this and in that. And they do show little shots of it, happening to kids. We all know it's all in, L.A. And so
I think if they had a bigger budget today, make it feel really big. I don't mean like a big blockbuster, but just in terms of the paranoia and who it's affecting and all that, can really, really dial that in. And I think maybe a series, so you have more time to flesh that out over like 8 or 9 hours as opposed to 90 minutes, right, I think would be really, really interesting. I think there's a lot of potential for Season of the Witch still, and I hope they do something.
Too bad A24 is not involved. That would have been nice instead of Miramax.
Yeah. I don't know what Miramax is going to do. Well, Weinstein's not involved anymore, so maybe it'll be all right. I don't know, but we'll see. Hey, let's so we have a few minutes left here. Let's jump over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. If you guys have any questions for Rob or for Thomas or for Brandon or for Chris or for myself or for all 5 of us, really, get those questions in. Let me just see. There was a couple of I don't want to miss this. There was from yesterday, because we thought we were going to do the show yesterday. Atrocitus becomes a member again, rejoins. Thank you. Sean Sheridan rejoined. Thank you, Sean. Sean sent in a member chat yesterday and said favorite horror movies would be Elm Street 1 and 3, Halloween 4 for nostalgia. First Halloween I saw, and the first Halloween I saw Scream is my favorite slasher movie. The Thing, Christine, Frailty, by Bill Paxton, very underrated. Great movies. Great list, Sean. Great list. Matthew Farisi sends in a super chat today, $4.99. Thank you, Matthew, and says, I bought the remastered version of The Hitcher. Just came in. Can't wait to watch it. Also got a copy from my dad for Christmas. He introduced it to me. Hitcher's good. Are you guys fans of The Hitcher?
Yeah. I have not seen it.
That's decent.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen the original, but the remake is fun.
I like the remake too. Remake was good.
Original is by far superior.
Oh, interesting.
I imagine.
I'll add it to my list. I have a long list.
Yeah, it's a good watch.
I have not seen the remake. I've seen the original with Rutger Hauer, right? Is that who's in it? Rutger Hauer? Yeah.
Yep. Peak Bean and Fun era.
Calvonics Music sends in $10. Thanks, buddy. Says they tried too hard to make Tom Cruise the new Brendan Fraser type character. It just didn't work. Thomas, you agree with that?
Yeah, but I didn't really like The Mummy in 1999 either. So,
ooh, Thomas, I like Tom. I like your jam. He's a tough cookie when it comes to his jam.
I mean, you know what I honestly think? I was 19 when that came out, 99. I was 19. Mm-hmm. I think if I'd have been 10 when that came out, I'd have loved it.
Right.
I was 7 and I loved it. So
yeah, I could understand that. I was 19 and I wanted it to be like serious, and it wasn't serious at all.
Right. Well, and also too, I mean, you got a head start in your love of monster creature movies, and so by the time, like, The Mummy in 99 for you was like Halloween H2O for me. Right? You know what I mean? It's kind of that vibe where by the time I got to Halloween H2O, I mean, it was 1998. So I was 19 in 98. So I'm you're a year, behind me. So it's one of those things where I'm nearly 20 years old. And so when I got into Halloween, there were only 2 Michael Myers movies. And so, it's been a long time. And so it's gotta be like this. It's gotta be this. And you get to H2O and I'm like, I guess it feels like Scream. And it's just, there's now all these masks in his eyes and there's all the shit that I always talk about. And so, but if you're younger, Halloween was either, H2O, like I always say, it was either the first Halloween movie you ever saw or maybe the first Halloween movie you saw in the movie theater. And so there's a big nostalgic connection to it. So I understand. And a lot of people, the Mummy, I mean, they didn't watch, the Frankenstein and Universal monster movies. Oh, they're old. They're like ancient. I mean, you see, the Bela Lugosi was old. And they get to fucking Brandon Fraser in 99. They go, wow, I just, like Brandon, he's sitting there in the theater. He loved it. He loves it. He's eating his popcorn.
It's an accurate representation.
Yeah, if I had been 10, I probably would have liked it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure there's movies today that, you watch Brandon, and you're like, if I was 10, I would think this was amazing. You know what I mean?
I saw Monster Squad in the movie theater when it came out. Apparently, I was one of the only people who went to see it in the movie, and I freaking loved that movie.
It's true. Age can play a huge role. Absolutely. I mean, there's movies I thought were amazing when I was 7 that I watch now and I'm like, well.
You know, like I used to love Teen Wolf. I can't watch that movie.
Oh no! I still love Teen Wolf.
So, and speaking of which, where do you guys stand with how they should do the monster movies? Because they started off as like the old gothic movies, and then my generation is more of the swashbuckling adventure, and now they're kind of like the modern take. But like, I grew up with the adventure version, but now that I'm older, I'm like, they should make them gothic. Even if they're, I prefer the like late 1800s, early 1900s setting, but even if they're modern, like somehow bring the gothic back.
I think that's cool. I think like a gothic film noir, almost like a very, I'm down for that. Deep blacks.
Make them black and white.
You know? Because I will say this, the Wolfman remake in 2010, it has its problems. I admit it has its problems.
Has its moments too, though.
But there's a lot of things in that I do like, especially the Rick Baker makeup. I love that. There's things I like about it, and there's things I don't like. But
is that the Benicio del Toro one?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it Anthony Hopkins in one?
He was in.
That's the same one, yeah.
That's the same one, yeah.
They made his father a Wolfman too, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
One of those third acts kind of fell apart.
I gotcha.
I was interested until then.
Interesting.
And that was one of those movies that was in. They made it, and then it took like 2 years for it to come out because they kept fiddling with it and fiddling with it and fiddling with it and fiddling with it.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Josh McKenna, $9.99, and says, I love What Lies Beneath and 1 Hour Photo. Williams can make me laugh as Doubtfire, but creep me the hell out at 1 Hour Photo. Yeah. Did you guys like 1 Hour Photo?
Yeah. Really good.
Actually, I missed that one.
Ooh, Brandon.
I'm the young one here. I was too young when it came out, and just.
Yeah. You know what? Because Robin Williams, obviously, a titan, a legend. We love Robin Williams, known for his comedy and his theatrics. He's amazing. But Robin Williams, he was a terrific dramatic actor. And I don't just mean for his Academy Award in Good Will Hunting. In Awakenings with Robert De Niro. Have you guys seen Awakenings with Robert De Niro? Yeah. Oh, fantastic. He's brilliant in
Insomnia.
Insomnia, he's fantastic.
Insomnia was good.
Yes. That was one of Nolan's earlier films. And so I would say watch 1 Hour Photo. It's a very uncomfortable movie. He's fantastic in it. And it's just like he's brilliant in that movie. Yeah. 1 Hour Photo is he becomes emotionally attached to this family that brings he's the film guy at like Walmart. You know what I mean? It's not Walmart, but that's kind of the general idea. He's got like a blue smock, and you know what I mean?
The one part from the trailer I remember.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the 1 Hour Photo guy when people used to get their photos developed.
1 Hour Photo, what's that? I've never heard of that.
When I was in college, we had the disposable cameras. We used to get disposable cameras. Were huge.
Or go up to a kid and ask him what a telephone booth is. They'll be like, telephone booth? What's that?
It's this amazing thing that is around. You can make calls. But it's really cool because he's this character. I think he plays what's his name? Sai? Is it Sai? Sai?
I think it is.
Sai. Yeah, it's something like that. Anyways, I think he's dyed his hair blonde for the film as well. But he looks creepy. He seems like a nice guy who takes a liking to this family that brings their photos in all the time. But because he doesn't have a family of his own, and obviously he's got a lot of issues, he develops this unhealthy, unrealistic, almost a parasocial relationship with this family. Thinks that he knows them because he develops their photos and he sees them on vacation and happy and this and that, and then he starts to kind of go to their homes because he has their address, and he starts to take a liking to the little girl, not in that kind of way, but just kind of like, oh, I'll buy the little girl a present, and I'll do this, and it's just, and at first the family's like, oh, that's so cool, oh, that's so sweet, thank you, but then it's like, okay, dude, like, what do you now? It's becoming and then it ends in a way that's just like, wow, he's fucked up. It's really good.
Sounds way better than the one that I'm about to mention. But have you guys ever seen The Intruder with
Dennis Quaid?
Yeah.
No, but I remember the trailer.
It's not bad. I thought it was okay.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
But a couple like buys a house off of him, and he's not ready to let it go, and he just kind of like keeps showing up. Oh, I'm just mowing the yard. Oh, I'm just gonna arrange this picture.
Of course, yeah. I remember the trailer.
Yeah,
I remember the trailer. Yeah. The Intruder. I got to see that one. I like Dennis Quaid. Flavio Bonanno Leone. Am I saying that right, buddy? I'll just call you I think it's Flavio, Flavio. Flavio. That's what I'll say. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I really appreciate it. Huge fan of Crawl. I'd love more movies like that. Yes. Thomas, did you like Crawl? A good one. Yeah?
Yeah, Crawl is good.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dave, let me ask you a question. Would you consider Jaws a monster movie? Because technically, you could say it is.
You know what? Technically, you could say it is. Just like technically, you could say Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Hang on. Let's not start that. Let's not start that. But I will say that I think, and this is a stereotype, and not that a creature feature monster movie couldn't be this way. It certainly could. I don't think it usually goes this way. The thing with Jaws, because of the issues they had on it and I think perhaps the initial, if Spielberg was able to shoot the movie that was initially planned, seeing the shark earlier and more often and more of him, then maybe. But I think because he had to resort to more of the theater of the mind, which actually in retrospect was brilliant and I think made the movie that much better. The film, I understand why people call it a horror movie, and I can certainly see that, but it's a character-driven film. It's not a plot-driven film, it's a character-driven film. And so because it's a character-driven film, where I think most monster movies and creature features are probably more plot-driven, and this is more of a drama. It's got real drama, terrific acting, slow burn. You don't see the shark until like in its glory until like the 80th minute in the movie or something ridiculous like that. And I think it's only on screen for 4 minutes. And so I think because there's so much drama and there's a lot of character and it's the build, it doesn't feel creature feature to me. It doesn't feel like, like The Meg, you know what I mean? Or something that's more plot driven,
like Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, Deep Blue Sea is more plot driven, right? You know what I mean? And not that you don't have character moments, but, and I liked Deep Blue Sea. I remember when it came out in 98. I saw it in the movie theater. It's fun, right? Mm-hmm. But Jaws, there's a maturity to it. Even today, there's a maturity to it. It's real film. Real filmmaking, characters and performances, and I mean, look at Quint's monologue, but everybody's firing on all cylinders. It's a real character-driven film, and so it feels like a thriller drama. And so I don't know if I would classify it as a creature feature monster movie. I think monster movies tend to be a bit lighter and more fun, and maybe you know what I mean. That's how I see it anyway, on the spur of the moment.
Dave, do you think we'll ever get another Jaws?
I think I don't know. That's a good question. Perhaps. But until they can, if they do though, if they ever remake Jaws, like I just said, it's a character-driven film, right. And that's how it has to be. If you want to remake Jaws and do justice to Jaws, it has to be character-driven, not plot-driven. So, the problem is that, the cat's out of the bag, and we've seen sharks, and I also am not. Some digital CGI sharks look better than others, but if you're going to remake Jaws and make it look like The Meg, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, I don't want to.
Cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. Sharks don't swim like this. They don't swim that fast, and so remaking Jaws, I don't know. Maybe they will one day. Maybe when Spielberg's gone. I don't know, but I still think to this day, and maybe I'm looking through rose-colored glasses because I'm 45 years old. I don't know. But I still think to this day, the shark in Jaws looks real. Now, there's moments where it may look more real than other moments, but I still think to this day, the shark is convincing. I don't know. Am I dumb? Am I losing my mind? No. I don't know.
I would agree.
Jaws 2 is really good too.
Yeah, Jaws 2 is a good now Jaws 2 is more of a monster movie, right? Yeah. Jaws 2 is more plot driven than character driven. Right, so that would be the difference.
How about Jaws 4?
Kind of a slasher too, with all the teenagers getting killed.
Jaws 4. Oh my God, Jaws 4.
How about Jaws 5?
Oh God, is there a Jaws 5? Oh no, well no, there isn't. But you never know. I liked Open Water. I thought Open Water was good. Creepy. That's a good.
We're getting another 47 meters down.
Oh well, yeah, it's another 47 meters down.
Well,
it's
Shallows. The Shallows isn't bad.
Shallows was good.
You know what? I'll admit it. It's a terrible movie, but I saw it in the movies. I enjoyed the hell out of Shark Night 3D. Oh. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I admit it's a terrible movie, but I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Was that when you were in the swamp?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was entertaining.
I haven't seen those movies, but
that's where the shark jumped up and bit the person off the.
From like 2010.
But going into that, they're just ridiculous films. Right, exactly. I get you. Josh McKenna, $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Says, what are the worst horror movies you guys have seen? Dave, I remember you talking about Don't Go Into the Woods. That's a bad one. What are some of your worst horror movies you've ever seen, if you can think about them off the top of your head?
Can I go first?
Sure.
This might piss some people off. Jason Goes to Hell.
No, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Halloween Resurrection.
It's pretty bad.
That's bad.
I agree. What about you, Rob? One of the worst ones you've seen?
I'd say Halloween Resurrection. Off the top of my head right now, I can't think of any. No. Well, I would consider Jaws 4 like a horror movie because there's no character-driven plot or anything.
Right.
Despite some really good actors. Michael Caine.
Oh, yeah.
Lance Guest.
Yeah.
Mario Van Peebles, but it's horrible. It's so bad it's good. You got to watch it.
The opening of Jaws 4.
Oh, yeah, when he gets his arm chopped off.
When Sean gets bitten and you have the juxtaposition of the Christmas on and the cold and the water, it's terrifying. It's really good. It's really good. Then the rest of the movie just goes down.
Oh, I know another one. Black Christmas 2000. Was it 2019?
Oh, that's up there, baby. That's up there. Oh, here we don't get me started on that, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pile of dung. Edward Nito, a very generous super chat of $20. Thank you, Edward. Says, Rob Zombie's Halloween was the first Halloween movie I saw in the theaters. I thought the trailer for that movie was pretty good. The trailer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 was good as well. It's probably the best 2000s horror remake trailer and movie. Wow, there is an argument to be made there. Are you guys fan of the Texas Chainsaw remake? I actually really like it.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's good.
The original and the first remake are.
I didn't like the remake very much. I liked the beginning, the prequel they did.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't like 2003 one.
No, okay. And Chris, you said that you liked it?
I like them both, that and the beginning.
And the beginning, okay.
Yeah, I thought they were good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm
beginning
actually
was pretty good too.
Yeah. I saw the 03 one in the theater, and I remember really liking it. I like the scene. Of course, I obviously would. When Jessica Biel's running away, and it's dark and it's raining, and she's hiding in the locker, and Leatherface. I mean, he's a big, imposing dude. You know what I mean? And just the great mood and the way it was shot and everything was absolutely fantastic.
Hey, Dave, do you think they'll get Jennifer Love Hewitt back for the Next I Know What You Did last summer?
I thought they did.
Let me just give her a call.
I thought they got both her and Freddie Prinze already.
Freddie Prinze.
They already got Freddie Prinze. How can they not have her?
Freddie Prinze is signed on. Jennifer Love Hewitt has not yet, but I would be shocked. Now, she hasn't. Okay, look, so they haven't announced it yet. I can tell you that there's a very good chance that she is already on board, and that maybe she hasn't signed the dotted line yet, or maybe they're just waiting for the right moment to by the time we get notice that things have been, they've been announced, it's usually well after the fact of when they, actually are. I mean, it's the same. It's usually like that in the entertainment industry. I mean, even for myself, when I sign contracts to do shows, I knew I was doing Lana Longbeard, 2 months before I was able to actually announce it on social media, right? You know what I mean? So usually those things, that's usually how it goes. Obviously, it's not a hard, fast rule. That doesn't mean that things can't happen fast and it's only, a couple of days. But it wouldn't surprise me if she knows she's on board. She's read the script. She said yes. Maybe they're just finalizing the negotiations of her contract. And this is ongoing right now. I mean, it's not that she's at home right now going, I never got a call. No, I guarantee you. If Freddie is on, Jennifer's, I mean, she's, you know what I mean? I would be very surprised if they do a legacy sequel with him but not her. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. She's the final girl that has survived, so it doesn't make it. Not that she's going to be the lead. I still think they're going to be doing the typical, it's a new group of kids and they need to seek out the old guard to find out how to, I mean, that's what I think it's probably going to be. But I think she will come back. I think she knows at this moment whether she's coming back or not. Like whether she's agreed to the terms or not. And I think she will agree to the terms because, her career, she put her career on hold to have kids and get married, and she's on the 911 show, which is great, but she's not doing much else at the moment. So, and horror is hot right now, and legacy sequels are hot right now. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but the idea of them are hot. So I think that she will sign on. And I think she knows right now that she is. I just don't think that there's been an announcement of it yet. So.
Do you think they'll make I Still Know canon, or do you think they'll pretend like that one that didn't exist? They'll just do it off first.
Was it Brandy that was in I Still Know?
Yeah, Brandy said she'd come back. I don't think anybody
she said that she's had talks. So
did Freddie?
She's had talks. Jennifer Love has had talks.
Did Freddie Prinze? Did he survive? I Still Know he did, right?
Yeah,
I think there are only two that have survived.
I don't see why they wouldn't, unless there's something with the killer or something. I mean, it's probably not going to be the same fisherman. It'll probably be like a relative. I don't know. Or maybe it'll be I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. I have no idea.
I've never seen the third one. I hear it's awful.
I haven't either. It was straight to DVD, 2006. Which is too bad that exists, because I'll always know what you did that summer is what they should change it to. Would have been a great title for this legacy sequel. But they can't do that because it would sound too close to the 2006 movie, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. And so maybe it will be.
Was she movie, Jennifer Love Hewitt, the third one?
No.
Was that
no.
It had none of the original characters, and it was basically a completely separate story. And it was like supernatural. Like the Ben Willis was like some supernatural something. I've never really seen the whole movie. I just know like plot and concept of it, and it's like just a completely ridiculous different type of story, and through it was almost like a ghost story type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that the one with Kate Mara, or am I thinking of Urban Legend 3?
There's an Urban Legend 3? I didn't even know there was a 2.
I think they kept making those.
I knew there was a second one, but not a third one.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a 2.
Last Summer 3.
Okay, I like the first one. Okay, let me just get this member chat from Mendel Goodman. Thank you, Mendel. It says, Halloween 18 was the first Halloween movie I saw in the theaters, and despite all the many negatives I have with it, I'm very happy that was my first Halloween movie seen in the theaters. You know what? If Halloween 18 was your first Halloween movie in the theaters, that's a pretty good. That's good. That's good. At least it wasn't Resurrection. I mean, that would have been. That would have been awful. That's pretty good. All right, folks. Well, listen, that is going to do it for this episode of McRae Live, episode 293. I want to thank, of course, the super chats that came in, and my moderators, of course. Thank you for doing what you do. I really appreciate it very, very, very much. And I want to thank my guests, of course, Chris and Brandon and Rob and Thomas. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun getting to know you guys, talking horror, getting to know your tastes and all that. I think is really, really cool. So when I see you guys in the chat now, I'll be like, oh yeah, a monster movie guy, Thomas Christy, monster movie. It's really cool. Very, very cool. And again, thank you so much for your generous contributions to the Billy 2 campaign. Bruce and I really appreciate it. It's not an exaggeration when I say that we could not have done the movie without you. Literally, you need money to make the movie, and of course, there you guys were. And we really appreciate it. And we're sending off the first batch of perks tomorrow. So for those of you that may not have seen the update on the Indiegogo campaign, tomorrow morning I am sending out all Lynn Griffin snow globes, all Lynn Griffin Christmas ornaments, and signed photos of myself, Victoria, and Lynn as well. The signed photos are going out tomorrow as well. So the first batch is on the way, so you will have your snow globes and your Christmas ornaments for Christmas, which is great. Stick around, guys. We'll have a more of a formal goodbye here in a second. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into this episode of McRae Live. I will be back very soon with another episode, and also another episode soon as well with some more guests to come on. There's going to be a lot of guests coming on over the next little bit between this and the two dudes as well. So have a great rest of your Wednesday, folks, and I will talk to you all soon. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.